welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm, of course, Sri, your co-founder and co-host of the CPG Guys, and also co-founder and partner of Think Blue, your key to unlocking your profitability potential. As builders, connectors, and amplifiers, we shape the future of commerce to drive your growth. Please do listen to my older daughter, Ria Raj's music at www.riaraj.com. That's RHEARAJ. And my younger daughter, Laura Raj, is a member of the Geffen Records Universal Music Group band Cat's Eye. While my wife, Kavita Raj, has her own podcast, Lights, Camera, Convo on iHeartRadio and all streaming platforms. Not joining me today as he's making his way back from Mexico and from New York City is none other than my co-host, Mr. PAVS Bond. And when he's not co-hosting this podcast, he serves as Partnership Acceleration Lead at Flywheel, a division of Omnicom that helps enterprise brands improve their SEO and SEM, growing their e-commerce businesses. Before we get to our guest today, we want to ask you to help spread the word about this community we've created in the CPG Guys. Beyond sharing our podcast with your friends, if you're using Apple Podcasts or Spotify as your preferred listening platform, leave us a rating, as your rating tells us how we're doing. Your review tells us whether we're having the right conversations with the right guests. And of course, it helps feed the algorithm that makes us more findable easily by CPG retail people like you, looking for both education, and we've always said this is a baseball podcast that does other things, entertainment as well. We're happy that the CPG Guys is part of an impressive collective of highly rated podcasts, including CPG Scoop with Risa and Jennifer, FMCG Guys with Daniel, Efrain, and Christine across the Atlantic pond over in Europe. Links to our podcast, our sister casts, and the social media profiles of my daughters, Ria and Laura, my wife's podcast, can easily be found in the digital liner notes of this episode. So let's get a conversation going. And I'm happy today that I'm actually live here at the Path to Purchase Institute's Retail Media Summit in Chicago, June 2024. And my guest today is none other than Michael La Kier. Michael is Vice President of Brand Development for IGA. Michael, thanks in a very busy show for making time for me to do this interview. Welcome to the CPG Guys.
Thanks for having me, and excited to be here live with so much energy and so many people all focused against Path to Purchase and retail media.
Yeah, I can't believe we found a quiet spot to actually do this, which is awesome. Learning a lot at this summit. And Michael, before we get started with the Q&A portion of the show, can you take 30 seconds and tell the audience who IGA is and specifically your role there?
Sure. So the 30-second version is that IGA is the Independent Grocers Alliance. We're the largest global network of independently owned and operated grocery stores, about 6,500 stores worldwide. And my role at IGA is to lead brand development. So that means I work with partners and brands to help drive more sales into our network and help our retailers be more efficient and more effective in their operations.
Thank you so much for that overview, Michael. In the digital liner notes of this episode, we'll of course include links to Michael's LinkedIn profile, of course, IGA's LinkedIn page and website for our listeners to access while we go on with our conversation. So are you ready for it, Michael? Question number one.
Sure, let's go.
You know, I trolled you on LinkedIn prior to coming out to this conference, and you, of course, got your degree from the University of Texas at Austin. I lived in Texas for many years and have driven down to watch a bunch of football games there. But as you made your way out of college, you started at Gannett, which is USA Today Network, and then made your way into the Coca-Cola Company. And then today, here you are. You even were a founder of a company. And then you're Vice President of Brand Development at IGA. Take us through the years coming out of college, how your career built, and then lastly, if you were to look back and give Michael graduating from UT at Austin, what would you tell him?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. I'd probably tell him stay in school, just because, as you mentioned, UT Austin is such a great place to be. Austin's a great town. But probably the other more serious advice I would give myself way back then is to be curious and stay curious, because I think that's how we learn and develop as individuals. And even a few years later, let's just say, I think that kind of describes my mindset in terms of being curious. And that's what's really led to a lot of different roles and career changes, so to speak. But when I first came out of school, I actually worked at a direct marketing advertising agency for about 4 years, which was a great opportunity to really understand marketing at really the ground level and sort of shaded my take on marketing, given that it was direct response to drive action. If you think about how marketing has evolved since I went to school, which is quite some time ago, it's evolved more from awareness to actually driving action, which is, what we're all here doing live at the Path to Purchase Retail Media Summit, right? How do we use media in a way that where we can understand who the audience is and drive action? And that's really been the foundation of where I started. After about 4 years, I left. I live in Atlanta. The Coca-Cola company comes knocking at your door. That's a door that you open pretty quickly. And so I went and worked at Coca-Cola for almost 17 years, started out in the consumer promotions group, and then moved on to brand, got my MBA nights and weekends in between, ran the Powerade brand for a number of years, which is super fun, especially if you love sports. And it's an opportunity to run a finished goods business within the Coca-Cola company. Then I took a shift back to the direct marketing world and was asked to lead the My Coke Rewards digital loyalty program. So I took that from under 2 million members to over 25 million. I joke that, we were first party data before it was called first party data, and good opportunity to run a business, lead a business, really got my hands super, super dirty to lead a team and got a chance to run digital loyalty and play in that space in the early days. And then you work at Coca-Cola, you want to get closer to the cash register. So spent the next 4 years kind of in the retail and shopper marketing space. Was actually loaned out to Wakefern Foods ShopRite grocery stores for a year, helping them hone their loyalty and shopper marketing strategies and really learning how a retailer operates from the inside. And then the last 3 years were all around leading the shopper marketing strategy and capability team. So establishing the Coca-Cola way of shopper marketing and also a digital shopper marketing practice, as well as our customer collaboration center. Left Coke and for 10 years, established a consultancy. So working in a lot of those same spaces that I talked about, everyone from USA Today and Gannett, as you mentioned, Walmart, Kimberly-Clark, Johnson & Johnson, Bain, did a lot of work with General Mills, your alma mater. And then a lot of upstart food and beverage brands and commodity food boards. So great opportunity to, after working at Coke so long, to really see the world. And then my consultancy was acquired by IGA about 15 months ago. It still exists. We still work with endemic and non-endemic brands to help them with their value proposition and go to market. But now, after about 15 months, sitting in the retail world has been fun and exciting, and get the opportunity to work with a whole host of CPG brands as well as strategic partners.
What a heck of a profile. I mean, from running a brand like Powerade, where you rightfully said, if you love sports, it's a great place to be. But to me, the real word there, what I picked up was brand activation, right? The number of activations, I can't even imagine how many you must have done with Powerade. And then I did not realize that your consulting company was actually acquired by IGA. So congratulations on that. And then the experiences you talked about, especially the collaboration center, pretty amazing. Early days of digital, which probably grounds you in good decision making today and not to get swayed in any one direction as omnichannel plays itself out. So to me, it's one heck of a profile, but our audience would love to know, what is IGA? What is IGA? Who does IGA primarily service? And then specifically as a brand curator for IGA, what do you do?
Sure. So as I mentioned, IGA is the largest global independent grocery network. And so we've got everything in our network from one store operators to a chain of over 300 stores. Independently owned and operated can be a challenge at times, as well as an opportunity, because pretty much you can find anything anywhere within our network, whether it's stores in Australia, China, South Africa, the Caribbean, or here in the US. We have folks who are doing amazing things, and there's good learnings and good opportunities to share across the board. So IGA is probably about here in the US, we're about a $16-17 billion US sales. Overall, the independent space within grocery retail represents about a third of the U.S. Business overall. So if you think about about $255 billion, and so it's an interesting market to play in. Obviously, there's not as much consistency as some of the bigger retailers, but that makes it a little bit of fun. And so we get an opportunity to learn every day, and from our retail partners, our wholesale partners, as well as brands. And my specific role, given that we're independently owned and operated retailers, we do a lot of work with CPG brands. Kind of our strategy is pretty simple. The CPG brands know more consumer insights than we do as retailers in terms of their products. They're investing behind those opportunities. And if we can help brands sell more within the independent space, then we help our retailers. And again, our mandate is to help independent retailers sell more and be more efficient and more effective. So it's kind of ideally what we want is a triple win, a win for the shopper, a win for the retailer, and a win for the brands. And that's really what my job is, to enable those engagements and opportunities with shoppers and brands through our retail partners.
How awesome. So that very retail partners, independents you speak to in terms of driving incremental sales and driving traffic, etc., how does that connect back to the broader shopper engagement strategy required to actually deliver that outcome for the independents you support?
So the beautiful thing about the independence is we talk a lot in shopper marketing, omni-channel marketing, whatever you want to call it, about really engaging the shopper and being relevant to them. And our retailers are embedded in the local communities. So, hyper local personalization gets thrown around a lot within the industry, but our retailers were hyper local personalization from the start because their mixes, their assortment are all based on the surrounding shoppers and their core shoppers who are coming in. And so they know their shoppers better than anyone else. And so they may not have the capital resources of publicly traded companies. They may not have the ability to do certain things, but what they do extremely well is connect with the shopper and over deliver on a great shopper experience. Yeah, so one of the interesting things, as you ask about IGA, is that because of our structure, we actually operate as a not-for-profit. So when I say that our mission is to help the retailers sell more and be more efficient and more effective, we're not just blowing smoke. It's something that is important to us because of kind of the ownership structure of IGA and making sure that, we are driving benefit for them and benefit for the brands. To some extent, the consulting I was doing before IGA is similar to the consulting I'm doing now in terms of understanding CPG brands' commercial strategies and how do we bring those to life. And typically, we will be a brand's most efficient marketing partner because we don't have the overhead of some of the publicly traded companies. And our goal is not to drive margin down to the bottom line. As long as we cover expenses, we're meeting our mission.
That's got to benefit both brands and the shopper at the end of the day in terms of being able to invest back into the CPG industry ecosystem and retail. So I want to move to a different area now, which is also shopper engagement at the end of the day. But you have a pretty strong partnership with Grocery Shopii. Katie Hodes, who is a friend of this show, she's featured twice on 2 podcasts, speaks often of a relationship with IGA and how strong it is and how it's working out for both of you. What was the objective in the first place? And then what kind of outcomes are you seeing from Grocery Shopii? And is it purely a digitally influenced sales, or does it drive in-store traffic as well at the end of the day?
So great question. So we love Grocery Shopii. We love the work that Katie has put in to create a platform that's super sticky, super engaging. And at the end of the day, as I said, from my early background, right, drives action. And so IGA has long had a recipe platform online, but it just wasn't cutting it in terms of engagement and the ability to identify shoppers and support brands as well as our retailers. And so that was really the objective. How do we create more stickiness, more engagement? The work that we're doing online with Katie's product falls under the strategic umbrella of what we call Family Meals Made Easy, a platform that we've had for quite some time. That platform manifests itself in store, and we have visual identity, signage, tools for our retailers to use that messaging to help support their in-store activations, whether it's an end cap that is a solution-based shopper occasion for breakfast, lunch, snacking. Family Meals Made Easy plays a role in that. Family Meals Made Easy also can be used at the deli and with prepared foods. So sandwiches and sushi, whatever they're making within that deli, Family Meals Made Easy allows for that platform. And then lastly, now online, that platform exists, gives brands a way to sponsor and be a part of that recipe engagement to drive inspiration for the shopper. But ultimately, what we want them to do is add ingredients to the list, drive in store. And so we're not only doing it online, but we're also lighting up those recipes for participating brands by sending shelf tags into the store so that it's really an omni-channel program. And they have the ability to see what's on, see what solutions can happen in store, from whether it's a recipe, whether it's a prepared meal, or just ingredients. So it really is a true omni-channel effort. And then for obviously the retailers that have e-commerce, you can just drop everything into your cart. So it really helps us with online engagement, but also helps us drive trips and transactions.
So I want to make sure I got that right, Michael. So the partnership is enabling you for those that do click and collect or e-commerce of any sort. Could be Instacart, could be home delivery, whatever the case might be. The platform, Grocery Shopii platform, actually allows a shopper, a customer, to with a couple clicks be able to load everything into their basket, check out, and just make it seamless. Is it that easy for a customer?
It's actually easier, you said, with a couple clicks. You can just click once and everything can get loaded into your basket. So super easy for those shoppers who aren't doing e-commerce but are creating shoppable, shopping lists. They are shoppable recipes. So similarly, you can do one click, add it to your list, whether that's in a digital circular, whether that's on a website, whether that's on your mobile app. So a very easy to use platform and super engaging, great visuals. And we've seen, since we launched it, we've grown our recipe club under the Family Meals Made Easy platform, as well as we're seeing significant engagement online, much bigger and better than we thought.
What about the fresh and deli section, stuff like cheese, meats, produce? Do you also cover that in this simple one-click formula, whether it's a shopping list or e-commerce?
Yeah, so you can do that within the Family Meals Made Easy online platform that Grocery Shopii hosts for us. We can add private label, we can add fresh items. So it's really simple in terms of engagement and activation.
Thank you for that, Michael. A reminder to our audience that Michael La Kier, VP of Brands, is speaking with Sri from the CPG Guys, and we're live at the Retail Media Summit hosted by the Path to Purchase Institute, June 2024 in Chicago. Now, Michael, I'm going to go to the proverbial question. You know, I was going to ask you this, right? It seems that every retailer, large ones, mid-tier ones, small ones, 5-banner chain, 5-store banners, really doesn't matter. It seems every one of them is getting into the publishing game by building a retail media network. IGA has done an anchor one. What unique and differentiating capabilities are you looking to offer CPG brands in the anchor retail media network IGA has created?
So first and foremost, our retail media network was created 6 years ago, not to sell, right? We talk, we're here, retail media. There's a lot of conversation about increasing margins and stuff like that for retailers. Ours was almost created based on the last name of that, right? Retail media network. Working with independents can be hard. And we know that, oftentimes brands walk away from working with independents, not because they want to discriminate, but because it's difficult. And so, one brand is not going to go talk to 2,000 of our stores, right? Because it's just too complicated. So our retail media network was created to create a network of retailers within the independent space, within IGA, to allow that to be wired together to make it simpler and easier for brands to activate, and make it simpler and easier for independent retailers to get attention and investment from brands that they weren't otherwise getting. Again, not a question of discrimination of brands, right? Brands want to sell anywhere they can, but it was a question of difficulty in terms of managing it. So we worked with partners at Design House and others to create and go and create this network. One of the differences versus our network is because of the independence, we are basically geo-targeting each store within our network. We're driving people into the stores. We're driving people into a hyper-localized, retailer-specific version of their national digital ad. So that can be, that's different for every retailer, but we're putting in content over the top from national brands as a means of supporting them and pushing through some level of coordination across our network. So our retail media network, again, was created to make a network and to allow, for lack of a better term, compliance within a difficult channel that otherwise couldn't happen. And so we try and keep things very simple. We know we're not going to be, the most technologically savvy network, just given all of the different point of sale systems, all the different e-commerce systems that exist within the network. But we can drive, again, a network, and our main goal was to drive trips and transactions for brands and retailers, as opposed to, again, that nonprofit status. We're not about creating dollars for the bottom line or margin or reporting to Wall Street. We report to the retailers. We report to the brands. So if we can create trips and transactions in a meaningful way for them, that's the win.
So, Michael, one of the things that popped up to my head as you were talking about the network is today's retail media networks have evolved significantly, where a large part of the inventory of programming is also offsite. Have you all started dabbling in offsite? What about social media influencers and all the various social channels?
Yeah, so again, based on how we started, we really started with offsite, given that we were trying to attract people into our network. And then to some extent, it was our retailers who were investing and drawing investment into the on-site. And so we kind of started a little bit backwards, if you will. And so we want to attract people using off-site. And then we're now wiring together the on-site across all of our network and even beyond our network with other independents to create more value for brands. And so we've been doing connected TV. We've been doing digital display programmatic for a number of years. And we've actually seen, in terms of connected TV, it's been a really great tool for us over the past couple of years to not only connect with the shopper and with brands and with retailers, but really to bring that hyper local personalization to life. So if we have a retailer standing out in the field talking about the freshness of their products, or that the way the ocean's coming in this time of year allows you to get the perfect sea scallops in Connecticut. We've been doing that for a number of years, and that really is foundational to our strategy of being local and making sure that we communicate that notion that local equals fresh, which is really our brand mantra.
Understood. And then one other question I had on the RMN capability, since it's sounding like it's one of the more mature ones, is you're supporting a network of stores across many independents and many chains. How do you allocate traffic?
It's a good question. So given, for us, it should be a question of all retailers are equal. But as we talk with brands, there's different opportunities. So it could be different regions. We talk with salespeople who are responsible for one wholesaler. We talk to people who, obviously don't have distribution across everywhere. So we've had to be nimble in what we do. And I would say, we're here with a lot of people in Chicago who are talking about their retail media network capabilities. We had this conversation earlier off air, right? That there are no experts in retail media networks. There's experts in certain parts of it, but I don't think there's anyone who knows everything and has tried everything and has developed everything. So, we're here to learn as well. So our goal is, how do we be nimble, and how do we create a system, to borrow some terminology from my ex-employer, Coca-Cola, we need a system that's linked and liquid. So it's linked across no matter what platform our retailers are using. And that content should be liquid so that it flows where it needs to flow and shouldn't worry about, what systems you're using, whether you're on, Instacart or HomeSum or WebStop or whatever it is. That content should be liquid to flow across the network.
I'll tell you, Michael, it's heartwarming for me to hear someone coming from retail say no one's an expert on retail media, because everyone tells me they're the expert. They know it all. There's only one way, one set of measurements. So I could not agree more with you. I think while you may be a more mature network, the maturity curve overall of retail media is still in the middle tier at best overall. And I think we're yet to see where this will head in terms of a very mature network period in the industry. So I know you've also partnered with Ideal by Design House in developing your retail media network. What makes them a great partner? What you choose them, and then what's coming out beneficially for brands looking to invest in this process?
Yeah, so we worked with Ideal by Design House as part of a foundational partner for our retail media network for a number of years now. And it's their technology that helps power that hyper-localized store by store ad, right? We know that despite the fact that, print's not dead, but print's dead, right? So it's all about online. So they've created some really interesting technology to bring brands to life inside the retail environment and allow, whether that's video, whether that's animated GIFs, it creates more engagement as opposed to a PDF of your local flyer that's really, really hard to read on mobile. So they've created the technology that allows us to ingest the retailer's local pricing file, put stuff in at the wholesaler, at the ad group level, and us to put in national content from the top. And that's been a very successful tool for us over the past few years. In terms of where we're going with it, we're leveraging that platform as part of our retail media network. By no means is the whole thing, but it's a foundational part. And we're now adding things coming soon around alcohol rebates that haven't existed before within the independent channel. What we don't want is somebody who's looking for an alcohol rebate to go, well, I can't shop at my local independent because they don't have something. And so we're bringing that online later this summer. We've added the recipes, as we talked about, into that platform, and we'll continue to do things to connect in with digital coupons. So we have the ability to turn coupons on and off based on what a brand has bought in the overall network. So, and then we also have a pretty robust program where we've worked with manufacturers to source and create offers that are specific to independents that retailers couldn't otherwise get other than the partnership with IGA.
Absolutely fascinating in terms of your partnership and why you chose it in the first place and what brands can look to. Let's now take a slightly deeper dive into your RMN capability that you're offering from IGA, right? So one of the questions brands struggle with all the time, especially in this post-COVID, 1 year out from all the Snap EBT drying up world, is seeking volume, because volume has significantly slowed down. So one of the questions being asked in boardrooms of CPGs by CMOs is performance measurement and holding retail media accountable to the same standards as national media. So can you take us a little bit through what you offer in that space?
So one of my responsibilities are broad partnership programs called the Red Oval Partnership Program. So for those of you familiar with the IGA logo, it's a red oval. So the Red Oval Partnership Program, annually we work with about 30 to 40 CPG partners, everything from my alma mater, Coca-Cola, down to Dano Seasoning that has, I think, maybe 10 SKUs now, but great brand and considerably and significantly growing. And so we partner and sit down on an annual basis to go over their commercial plan. So retail media is a piece of that. And so at IGA, we've created a significant set of kind of B2B tools. So how do we communicate the right brand proposition to retailers in a way that's going to be meaningful to them and them to really understand how they should be setting their shelf, how they should be communicating with shoppers, those kind of things. We do webinars. So I've become a webinar host myself. And then we have a whole host of those shopper engagement tools, of which the Retail Media Network is a big piece. When we started the Retail Media Network, we knew it had to be performance-based. And so from day one, we have created the largest repository of T-log data, T-log within the independent industry. We've talked with Circana and Nielsen, and the data that we get is 2.5 times what they would need to statistically project what's happening in IGA. So we have that data, and we use that data for any campaign that we work with CPG brands to help them understand distribution before we get started, to help them understand once we've done a campaign, what the sales lift looks like. So how did it compare to the prior 2 weeks, as well as comp sales about, what did it do versus last year? And then we're also providing trips and transactions. So while it's not perhaps ideal and perfect, we've started performance from day one, and we'll continue to improve upon that so that we can show the performance, whether it's part of our retail media network or just a program that they're doing as part of summer grilling or our holiday program. That's a promise that we have to our CPG partners, is that we show performance for their investment into our network. And again, that investment, any investment that comes into our network gets redeployed with our retailers on behalf of our retailers. So it really is a virtuous model.
Virtuous model, indeed, no doubt about that whatsoever. The measurement one is one, Michael, where I think so much judgment is being passed in the industry right now. Agencies haven't done a good job keeping up. I chat with the IAB all the time in terms of, are you putting out standards? Are you guys talking to the IAB by any chance? Have they reached out to you? This is the Interactive Advertising Board.
We've had some conversations with them. Again, our network's a little bit different in terms of how we activate, because, the first party data is owned by our retailers. So if you think about brands and retailers and, data clean rooms, our data clean rooms start much earlier because our retailers need to be able to share data across our network, but they're not necessarily going to give it to each other, right? So we're very much aware of the IAB and the MRC requirements and the move towards standardization. Just given our network, there's certain things we can and can't do. I love the idea of standardization coming from the brand world and coming from kind of the world of digital shopper marketing, if you will. But there are going to be differences across networks, and to shoehorn any retailer all retailers into the same box won't work. But I think there does need to be easier means of understanding results from one to the other. And part of what our mission is, right, is to kind of be that easy button for retailers with brands within the independent grocery space. And that's an ideal and a mission that we have to go after. And, quite frankly, we talked earlier about there are no experts. I think regardless of how sophisticated, how great things are on the measurement standpoint, probably all networks could do a better job.
One quick question back on that retail media before I go into the last segment of our conversation here is on the in-store component. I was recently at Cannes Lions in Europe. You were with me at the Retail Media Summit right now in Chicago. And then I was also at Shop Talk Barcelona. Europe has shifted the in-store activation, what you and I would call display, feature, classic sales, trade-based capabilities, into retail media. And it's been that way for quite a few years. In the US, we have these separation of church and state, where we've got media and retail media, and you've got trade focusing on display and feature with the sales teams. Do you see in-store activation as retail media? Are you guys starting to work towards that? Because at the end of the day, a display does drive traffic, and it drives attention, it drives audience. Not everyone who sees a display buys. I mean, it's media all the way from upper funnel down to somebody buying lower funnel. I just want to get your quick thoughts on that, and if y'all are looking at that.
We're not spring chickens here, Sri, right? And kind of everything old is new again.
I don't know about you, Michael. I'm not.
I'm definitely not.
I'm the fall chicken. I'm first worried about, now you're doing webinars, are we going to see an IGA guys competing with the CPG guys?
Oh, no. We could never compete with you and Peter. And, please pass along. I'm sorry Peter couldn't join us today.
I'm just kidding, Michael. I'm just kidding. But in store, I'm really curious.
I remember back in my Coke days, we had a head of advertising who came to the shopper group and our CMO, and he had this big aha. And this was, 15, maybe even 20 years ago. He had this big aha. Retail is bigger than the Super Bowl. in terms of audience. And he had this big presentation, and we're all sitting there going, welcome to the party. And so retail media in store, right? Screens and all sorts of other stuff, audio, et cetera, that's existed for a long time. And I think the realization of the value of retail and the value of how many people are coming in store has probably never been higher, which is great. Putting attention on something hopefully will help push it forward. And I think the big sort of aha or the big innovation now is, right, we have technologies that we can track and technologies that we can better understand what's happening and the results from the marketing activation that we put upon it. So we've got retailers all across the world who are doing amazing things. We have retailers who are creating, putting in smart carts here in the U.S. We have retailers who in South Africa. We have retailers in Australia who are doing amazing things with digital screens and displays. And so, I'd say if there's any brand that's curious about what's happening out there, or hey, have you seen this? If we haven't seen it, we can see it pretty quickly just given our network. Every year we have the IGA rally that's part of the National Grocers Association show. And we learn as much as we teach in terms of that, because all of our retail partners from around the world come together and share notes about what's happening. And so, obviously it's not as easy with us here in the US of snapping a finger and making the decision to deploy digital end caps everywhere, or an in-store radio network, or screens at self-checkout. But we definitely have significant pockets that have invested in those technologies, starting to learn those technologies. And the beautiful thing is, once one of our retailers starts something, learns something, it can rapidly go to the rest of our network.
That's absolutely awesome listening to you kind of speak to that. The last question we ask on the CPG Guys is always to look a little bit forward. And so I'm curious, what trends are you monitoring for your brand development role in particular? And how do you actually hope that they'll play into value building for your shopper engagement strategy, which you're charged with at the end of the day?
You mentioned it briefly earlier about SNAP and EBT and inflation and what that means within CPG boardrooms today. So the quest for growth has always been there. I think the quest for growth now has shifted from dollar growth to volume growth. And I would say most are nervous. Again, I work with 30, 40 CPG companies on a very regular basis. And over the past month, that's become an increasing worry amongst our brand partners. And so I think the focus of the trend will be more shopper focused, as it should be, as opposed to more internally focused about what do we do about our brands. I was talking to a large snacking company just yesterday, and they were talking about we're going to launch some of our favorites in smaller packages to get under the $3 price point, because they're starting to realize that inflation has made things go too high, and they want to offer the right packages as a opening price point to get people back into the category. So I think a lot of that's going to happen in terms of really that focus on the shopper. I think, credit card debt's up. We've seen inflation up. I was just seeing something yesterday that somebody had saved their cart in Walmart from a few years ago, and they put everything back in their cart, and it used to be $1.21, and now it was $121, and now it's $240, right? And so if you think about that, that does become a barrier to purchase, and you're going to be thinking a lot differently about what your basket is and what you should purchase. So I think a lot of brands are going to have to get very creative and focused again on, what's the right promotional support, what's the right occasion, brand, price, package strategy that's going to be winning in the future.
Yeah. And so I want to get those numbers right. Did you say 120 to 240? I'm not looking for precision. We're not looking for precision accuracy over here, but order of magnitude, that's double.
It was about double. And obviously I don't want to, sort of denigrate any of our retail brethren.
Yeah, we're not looking for accuracy there. This is just order of magnitude.
Yeah. So order of magnitude, it had gone up over 5-ish years. That basket had gone up, had basically doubled. So if you think about inflation, everyone's kind of excited now on the, sort of corporate side that inflation is moderated only 2 or 5%. But 2 or 5% is on top of 5%, on top of 8%, on top of 10%, on top of 12%. And what that means is at the end of the day, shoppers are hurting. And so as an industry, I think we need to do whatever we can to be more mindful of that. We've seen a lot of retailers coming in, slashing prices this summer or getting back to different types of pricing. I think we need to be very focused on the shopper, what's important to them, how do our brands best fit, and then at the end, where do we go activate, whether that's retail media like we're here learning about together or in store.
I talked to brands last 45 days, just a plethora of brands outside of DST. Most of the warehouse brands were there. We're going to pump more money into coupons. I'm like, good luck, keep doing it. Enjoy the temporary spike. It's not going to solve your volume problem at scale, right? Like, we've got a inflation-related price issue, and we shouldn't be shy to say that. The question is, what do you do about it, right, once we acknowledge it? And it's going to be hard to work on just inflation as an individual price for an existing pack size. But how about curating innovation, pack sizes, flavors? Maybe there's even waste in packaging. Maybe there's waste in how things are cardboarded out. Trucks being cubed, like sharpen your supply chain. If one thing we've learned over COVID, supply chain resiliency. Maybe there's more pencils to sharpen now that phase is over and containers getting imported are cheap once again or back to where they were pre-COVID, right? So what a fabulous conversation, Michael. I really enjoyed this. Let me remind our audience that you can find all of our content simply by going to a web browser and typing cpgguys.com is the URL. And if you think you or your company has thought leadership to contribute to a community discussion, just like Michael from IGA did today, drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, that's contact@cpgguys.com. And maybe you can join us on the podcast. Don't forget to drop us a rating on cpgguys.com at the top navigation bar. The rating tells us how we're doing. A review is much appreciated because it tells us if we're having the right conversations with the right guests. For our followers on LinkedIn, we know we don't exist without you. Thank you for the click, likes, DMs, comments, polls that you take, and the frequent engagement, whether it's live at conferences or whether it's on the platform. Jeff, thank you for making time to do this with me at a very busy conference. I know you have a lot going on today. You're probably attending a bunch of presentations, and you're here to engage, meet with service providers as much as it's possible, vendors and other retailers as well. So I can't thank you enough for making time live at the Pat to Purchase Summit here in Chicago in June of 2024 for retail media.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much, Sri.
That's a wrap of this episode, an insightful one coming from somebody at retail. See you soon on another episode of CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.